Russia has been influencing U.S. politics for a long time. I have this video here from 2018. It's been even longer than that, but I want to go back to this video from 2018 just to show you the narrative beginning to form. So 2018 was basically a year after Trump had taken office, a year and 4 months, give or take. This is on the Jim Baker show. Jim Baker is a famous televangelist who went to jail for like 7 years for like wire fraud and a bunch of other stuff. He had Lance Wallnau on, which is this guy right here. Lance Wallnau is a hardcore Christian nationalist extremist, and he espoused some talking points that very obviously came straight from Russia. Now, there's a point to why I'm drawing this distinction. There's a point to why I'm bringing your attention to this, and it relates to what some people said recently at a Trump rally.
With the Russia and the Ukraine conflict, what's your...
My opinion, I grew up in 40 years, under the Russian thing, and I love Putin.
There's obviously a contingent of Trump supporters, a large contingent of them, that are simply obsessed with Putin and Russia, and it's bizarre. But let's talk about the lead up to how we got to where we are. Let's talk about the timeline of events that got us here. So as I said, this is Lance Wallnau. Let's hear what he had to say on the Jim Baker show, a hardcore evangelical televangelist show, late May 2018.
I'm suspicious when the establishment right and the entire left all hate one nation. You know what? I'm beginning to wonder what's right with Russia, that they're so vilified by the left.
Look, I don't hate Russia. I don't think anybody hates Russia in America. We just recognize that Russia has been messing with things in the U.S. for a long, long time. And it's weird how close Donald Trump has been with Vladimir Putin. Like, really weird. How much he's defended him and gone as far as to say he trusts Putin over our own intelligence agencies. No joke. But this is a good example of Lance Wallnau carrying water for Russia. He knows that. This guy knows that. You can't convince me that this guy is just an idiot, doesn't know what he's doing, doesn't know what he's talking about. I can't accept that. He's at the very top of his game, the top of his field in televangelism or whatever. He is one of the most influential people in the United States. He knows all of the top leaders in the U.S. Like, he's had dinner with Trump and stuff like that. He knows what he's doing and he knows what he's talking about. You can't convince me he's an idiot.
Putin is why is it we cozy up and carries over there bicycling with Iran right now? Hey, Putin is trying to be a friend to the West.
No. At no point has Putin tried to be a friend with the West. He's tried to use and manipulate the West, like the United States, without a shadow of a doubt. He has never tried to be friendly with the West. He's only tried to take advantage. There's a term from old Soviet days called useful idiot. It's not supposed to be an insult. It's a political term. That means somebody who's being used cynically to promote a cause that they don't fully understand. Donald Trump's supporters come along and start yelling about how much they love Vladimir Putin because they think that Trump loves Vladimir Putin. They're useful idiots. The Soviets, as far as I know, I think the Soviets came up with this term, useful idiot, and it's just embarrassing to watch people jump headfirst into being useful idiots, loudly and proudly. I don't think the term applies to Lance Wallnau because he's not an idiot. He knows what he's doing. He knows he's being used for this cause, and he's doing it willingly. Seems to me. We're not in the guy's head. We can't know for sure. That's just my impression of it.
What's their obsession? You see, what we did was under Hillary Clinton. You want to know why Putin would ever do something, that even could show up with anti-Hillary influence?
Please, tell me.
Under Hillary's State Department, with the Ukraine and in Russia.
Remember, this is before the Ukraine war started.
The left progressives. The progressives are like, they're intent on ideology. They're like evangelists. They have to get their ideas out there.
I find it fascinating that he's comparing the left, quote unquote, like it's a monolith, to a religion. When he does this, it's an attempt to make the audience listening afraid to go anywhere near it because it could be considered heresy. He's comparing it to an ideology that people have no reason to accept, but just because they want to, just because they believe it and no other reason. And he's trying to scare his audience away from it because they could lose their shot at heaven if they go near it.
Organizations were exporting these agendas through, like Soros-funded entities, etc., through organizations into the territory of Russia, where
he probably doesn't even realize how deeply anti-Semitic it is to talk about George Soros or the Soros family or whatever else being like the puppet masters. But oh my God, that's actually really, really anti-Semitic.
Into the territory of Russia, where Putin actually has gone on record because his public policy has been shaped actually by Christians involved in his own in the Orthodox community, that he's for marriage between a man and a woman. Don't ever underestimate the hostility that America's system has towards anyone that won't bow the knee to the orthodoxy of the homosexual agenda.
See, what he's doing here is all about creating a positive image of Putin for his audience. This wasn't the start of it, but this was one more link in the chain that led to the right practically being in love with Vladimir Putin. No joke. People on the right literally write love letters to Vladimir Putin. I am not exaggerating or being hyperbolic. They write love letters to the guy. What would bring an American to write love letters to the Russian dictator? Things like this. That's what. Things like this. People like this going around and trying to convince their audience that Russia is fantastic, that Putin's the best, that he loves Christians and Christianity, and they share the values, and the left hates him, and all that other stuff. This is one more link in the chain. And what you're listening to with Lance Wallnau directly led to pictures like this right here. This picture of these two guys is taken at a Trump rally, and they're wearing shirts that say, "I'd rather be Russian than a Democrat." Seriously, I'd rather be Russian than Democrat. This is where this type of rhetoric led, and that was the goal all along. Who does this benefit? It benefits nobody except for Vladimir Putin and Russia. That's it. Who does it benefit for Lance Wallnau to talk about this stuff? Nobody except Vladimir Putin and Russia. That's it. After the Ukraine war started, after Putin went in there and started wreaking havoc on everything, everybody practically, it seemed like everybody in America was deeply in favor of Ukraine, wanted to help Ukraine, recognized this for what it was, just wrong, is just simply wrong. What Putin did, right? And bizarrely, out of nowhere, QAnoners start coming out and talking quietly about how Putin was doing the right thing and stuff like that. Coming up with bizarre conspiracy theories that justify Putin's actions in Ukraine. Inexplicably. Where did they get these ideas? Your guess is as good as mine. Who knows? They didn't come up with them on their own. You know who came up with them? Putin. Putin was repeating them officially from the Kremlin. Putin was having them repeated, these conspiracy theories, on the official state media. And who do I hear repeating them now? QAnoners. Weird, right? Listen to this. This is Delora O'Brien, early May 2022, just like a month or a month and a half after the Ukraine war started.
I'm not on Putin's side. I'm not on Zelensky's side. I'm not on Trump's side. I'm on God's side. God's side is the side of truth. It just so happens that right now, our President Trump is on the side of God. Also, believe it or not, so is Putin.
I don't believe that, actually. You're going to have to give me a little evidence for that. That's what she's going to give us, though, now, right? She's going to give us some evidence, some hard evidence that will be irrefutable, that we can check the sources on it, and verify as a matter of fact she's correct, right?
Right before I came on here,
she got this information before she came on? Not seeming promising.
This is what was sent to me. A Russian soldier. I even have his name, and I can't give it. I'm sorry. I can't. Just research it. I'm sure it'll start coming out.
Did it ever come out? Of course it didn't, because it was made up. She said she got this information. We'll get to the story in a second. She said she got this information right before she came on stream. You know what that means? That translates to, I had absolutely no time to vet this.
Searching for bioweapons. There was him and a few of the other soldiers searching for bioweapons in central Ukraine.
Completely made up. Completely fabricated. You know who fabricated that? The Kremlin. Vladimir Putin put that through official channels that's why they were entering when he realized that the war was deeply, deeply unpopular. Claimed that Ukraine was made up entirely of Nazis. Nonsense. Claimed that they were looking for biolabs. Nonsense. It's all nonsense. All of it, beginning to end. But he knew he didn't have popular support for the war. He knew the entire world turned against him on this, and he tried to garner support at least among his own people. If he could at least get his own people motivated to fight in this war, then he knew he could keep it going. Unfortunately, it didn't really work out that way, and he had to mobilize half the country as a result. He had to draft or conscript a whole bunch of people because nobody wanted to go fight over there because they knew his excuses were nonsense. So who did these lies come from? They're coming straight out of QAnon. Weird place to come out of, right? They came straight out of the Kremlin. They came straight out of Vladimir Putin's mouth. It's all fabricated. Why are these people repeating things straight from Putin?
Stumbled upon a child den. Dimly lit, filthy bunker holding approximately 100 young boys and girls.
Completely fabricated, beginning to end. The entire thing was made up. Before we continue, I just wanted to mention something. If you like what I do and you want to see me continue to do it, you can support me in a few ways. First, there's Patreon. That's probably the best way. But if you want to get something back for your support, you can check out my Teespring. Or you can check out my Telltale Unfiltered channel. I go through long-form, unhinged sermons from all kinds of people, from Hank Kunneman to Greg Locke to Jehovah's Witnesses. So give it a look. Links are in the description. Okay, now back to the video. That brings us to our latest examples of Putin putting his fingers in QAnon. QAnon is very obviously an extension of Vladimir Putin or Vladimir Putin's beliefs or ideologies or whatever else. It's so blatantly obvious that the guy is pulling strings behind the scenes to make QAnon spread conspiracy theories through the U.S. that are pro-Russia. What other reason would Americans have to spread ideas like this? It makes no sense. Listen to this one. Early October 2022, this happened at a recent Trump rally.
With the Russia and the Ukraine conflict, what's your...
My opinion, I grew up in 40 years, under the Russian thing. And I love Putin. I love Putin. Putin is making the right, what the American people is built over there. He wants to clean them out,
He wants to get rid of Americans? Clean them out?
Clean them out.
Okay, she said he wants to get rid of Americans, ? And she kind of pauses at that, not sure how to respond, it seems.
Clean them out, all the biochemical place, everything. And
That's weird, right? Another example of this conspiracy theory popping up out of nowhere. Biolabs, biochemical weapons, blah, blah, blah. Where is this coming from? This stuff was all repeated by the Kremlin.
Nuclear thing, yeah.
We'll have to talk more about this because...
He's a good president, Number 2 after President 1. Number 2. I love him.
Wow, I guess she loves Trump more than she loves Putin. I'm actually surprised by that. Yeah, point is, Putin has his fingers in everything related to QAnon. Putin is pushing QAnon into various different conspiracy theories. It's so blatantly obvious. I don't know how anybody could even miss it. I have no idea how people like this woman right here are missing that, truthfully. Michael Flynn has been heavily involved in QAnon since its inception. He even went out there and gave what's called the QAnon oath. I don't know if you guys have heard of this. It's similar to the oath to the Constitution, just a standard oath of office, except there are a couple of little changes. Like at the end, you say, "Where we go one, we go all," which is a QAnon phrase. He gave that oath July of 2020. So QAnon first appeared in 2017, I believe late 2017. So it was a couple of years later, but he's effectively now like the leader, or the thought leader at least, of QAnon for all intents and purposes. This is from early October 2022. He goes on a show with a woman named Mel K. She's on the right. Her big thing is the Great Reset conspiracy theory. I've talked about her on my Telltale Unfiltered channel before. Fascinating to listen to her talk. And he's with Clay Clark, who runs the Reawaken America tour. That's its own can of worms. But listen to what old Michael Flynn here had to say about Russia conspiracies.
So when you see Putin, and a very interesting speech that was just given, I think, literally in the last couple of days by Medvedev. Okay, the former. So Medvedev is another guy in the hierarchy. He was the president of Russia for a short period of time. Medvedev's speech was very stern, and so we have got to pay attention, because these are not shy leaders. These are bold leaders who have everything at stake in terms of protecting their country. So these fools, and like I said about Zelensky and his statement about nuclear war, and people can go to the various Telegram or my various social media and see it. That is a foolish person. But what's more dangerous than that is a dangerous fool, right?
Wow, Zelensky is a dangerous fool. Isn't that fascinating? A fascinating take from old Michael Flynn here, leader of QAnon, or one of the thought leaders of QAnon. What reason would they have to come up with these conspiracy theories? What reason would they have to hate the people that they hate if it wasn't Vladimir Putin pushing these narratives through? Check this one out. Early October 2022, Alex Jones gets in on it too. Apparently he's a Putin fan.
Do you leftists really want to destroy the world in nuclear fire because you have a fetish for hating Russians and Putin because they've become a little bit more Christian?
I guess the alternative is, if we don't want to be destroyed in nuclear fire, we help Russia take over Ukraine. We stop fighting for Ukraine. We stop funding them. We stop doing anything. We just let Russia take them over at the very best. That's the alternative that I'm picking up from Alex Jones here, right? If Russia were allowed to go in and take Ukraine with absolutely zero consequences, Finland and Moldova and every other country in that area should be afraid. Russia is very obviously imperialistic at this point, and Putin is not thinking or acting rationally, and hasn't been for a long, long time. You cannot give in to bullies. You cannot do it, which is exactly what Alex Jones apparently wants us to do. What happened to all that strongman stuff? I'm never going to back down for anything no matter what. What happened to all that alpha male mentality that Alex Jones and all of these other people are constantly talking about? What happened to never backing down in the face of adversity if you believe in something? Well, I believe that it's wrong for Russia to try to take over a sovereign nation in Europe. But they are too afraid, apparently, of what Russia would do. Too afraid. They want us to back down because they don't want to get hurt or whatever else. No, it's nonsense. They're just pushing conspiracy theories and talking points straight out of Vladimir Putin's mouth.
Again, they don't hate Russia because they're the former Soviet Union. The left hates Russia because they're becoming more like the American Midwest.
I don't hate Russia. I don't hate Putin. I just don't trust them at all. Putin has very obviously gotten like a disgusting number of people killed at this point for no reason whatsoever. So many people have lost their fathers, their brothers, their husbands. It's just disgusting for no reason. None. So I don't hate any of this. I hate what Putin is doing. And I don't understand how somebody like Alex Jones, some self-proclaimed alpha male, could justify it, honestly. I really don't.
They're becoming more like the American Midwest. They're becoming more conservative. They're against transgenderism and teaching 5-year-olds about sex and all the rest of this. So that's why Hollywood and the Rob Reiners of the world literally have a fetish for destroying Russia.
Yeah, I don't have any interest in destroying Russia. I want them to stop invading sovereign countries. That'd be fantastic. I would appreciate that very much. But he's got to take the narrative and twist it around into something that it's not. That's what it's all about with these people, particularly Alex Jones. I'm going to be talking about Alex Jones himself a little bit later on, so stick around for that one. Check this one out. Another example of the pro-Russia conspiracy theories moving through Trumpism. Here's another guy at a Trump rally, early October 2022, giving his thoughts on what? I don't know. What he loves about Trump or something like that.
And the thing that really makes me mad about Ukraine, we put the bioweapon labs under Obama.
No, there are no bioweapon labs in Ukraine. A complete fabrication straight from Vladimir Putin's mouth. How did this get so pervasive? How did this spread so thoroughly through Trumpists? I don't understand. QAnon picked up Russian propaganda and started spreading it through the U.S. QAnon has a massive influence on the right wing. A massive influence. That's how we got to where we are with these people.
And the thing that really makes me mad about Ukraine, we put the bioweapon labs under Obama. And Obama said, oh, yeah, we'll give up the nukes and we got your back.
Once again, no. Russia actually did that. Why? Where did he get the idea that Obama promised to protect Ukraine if they gave up their nukes? This is completely fabricated. Ukraine in, I think, 1994, someone correct me if I'm wrong, when they split off into their own country, they gave up the nukes that they had from the old Soviet Union. They gave them to Russia with a promise from Russia that they would protect them from being attacked or whatever. They would defend them. Russia made a promise that they would defend Ukraine if they gave them their nukes, and that's what they did. And then Vladimir Putin goes in and attacks Ukraine. So where did this guy get the idea that Obama promised to take the nukes off their hands if they defend him? What? Where did this come from? It's completely fabricated and twisted around.
Labs under Obama, and Obama said, oh, yeah, we'll give up the nukes and we got your back. We helped cause this with Ukraine under Obama.
See, now, this is what I find particularly fascinating. If you really pinned this guy down and said to him, you realize that Russia did what you're describing, right? Do you now feel the way that you feel about the U.S.? Do you feel that way about Russia after gaining that information? He would almost certainly dance around it and back out and find another reason to hate Obama or America or whoever it is he hates right now.
So I understand why Russia's in there doing what they're doing with the whole denazification of the Donbass region, because so many Ukrainian nationalists seem to be full-blown Nazis these days.
No, again, oh my God. Yeah, there are Nazis in Ukraine. Guess what? There are Nazis in the U.S. too. In fact, there are even Nazis in Germany. Did you know that one? Knock that around the old peanut. The Nazi flag or the swastika or whatever is banned in Germany, so you know what flag they fly instead of the swastika? The Confederate flag. That's absolutely something else, isn't it? They can't use the Nazi flag, so they use the Confederate flag because, you know why? They both stand for hate. That's why. And everybody recognizes them as such. Point is, there are Nazis everywhere, unfortunately. I would like it to be different, but that's just what it is. And Putin used his propaganda network to make everybody think that it was entirely overtaken with Nazis, like the whole country, instead of having a more localized problem like most other countries do. So where did he get all of this that, you know, it's overtaken with Nazis? Does he not realize that Zelensky is Jewish? A democratically elected leader is Jewish, and he seems to believe that Ukraine is made up entirely of Nazis. He lives in a fantasy land. Apparently, feelings are more important than this guy's facts.
Nazis these days. A lot of the media I've seen come out of the Russians taking POW. These guys got swastikas all over them tattooed. And I'm like, oh, our media doesn't like to play that, though. It's really interesting how that works. I mean,
See, this is all just straight propaganda right from Vladimir Putin's mouth. It's honestly a shame that people aren't connecting the dots and recognizing the fact that Putin is pushing conspiracy theories through American culture by injecting them into QAnon. It's disappointing that people aren't connecting the dots on that, but we have to draw attention to it. We have to point this out when we see it. If you have any thoughts on that, let me know in the comments or on Twitter @TelltaleAtheist.